sick of this weekend. I don't even want to
Hello, Bianca, how are you?
Hey, good girl. How are you?
I'm good. How's your week going?
It's going. Long time no see.
Yes, right. Right. Yes. Well, I'm so excited for today's podcast. So, a little bit about myself. I am Ashley, the Nashville owner, and we have
Bianca, the Finger Lakes, New York owner.
Yay! Well, we're so excited to talk with you guys today. First, let's jump right into how weddings have been this season.
Very, very different, to say the least. It's been a weird season in a good way. Like we started out of the gate super busy and it's not stopped, which is amazing. But it's been just different. Like we've had Wednesday weddings, we've had Monday morning sunrise weddings this year. Like it's been out of the norm Saturday morning. So it's been
I
nice.
feel that. I feel
Yeah.
that. I've had a couple Friday weddings so far this year, and yeah, like good way to say it, it's a different normal. And I'm working with a client right now for a weekday wedding this spring, and really excited because it's a whole different realm of things. I mean, different
Yeah.
vendors available and all the things. It's really cool.
Yeah, ceremonies are starting at noon and the receptions are concluding at 6. And I'm like, what do I do with myself? Like, I'm so used to like the
Yes.
1, 2 o'clock in the morning of getting everything home and unloaded. And I'm like, this is so bizarre.
I feel that. Yeah, I'm right there with you. And just especially like micro weddings too. We've had a couple of those already, and just a different realm of things, and with people that they're so near and dear and close to, and not a
Yeah.
huge wedding that's 300 people, when they
Yeah.
actually have time to talk to everybody that comes to the wedding as a guest.
Yeah. That's been another thing too. Like, we've had, a Friday wedding where it's 40 people and then a Saturday wedding where it's like 270 people. So it's like just kind of finding your tracking after being so mellow and together and then just like triple the vendor count and all the fun things. So it's been a
Yes.
season.
I agree with you right there, and that's just a great way to sum it up. It's been a little hectic, but we're making it happen. So,
Yes, for sure.
yay! Well, let's talk a little bit about training and how that was in July.
Training fell at a very interesting time for me because I came off of a crazy week of weddings and meetings. So literally, heading back to Charlotte and making a pit stop and then going on to Myrtle for training with everyone. It was an interesting trip, but I mean, worth it. We took away a lot of good nuggets and good info on how to move forward for the rest of the season, and of course, forward in general, which was nice.
Yes,
And we got to see
and I think
everybody, so that's rare.
yes, and I think too the refresher of all of us being together and going over things that might not be fresh in mind, and like, oh, I need to do that, or that's a great idea. Maybe I can implement it on my wedding this fall, or whatever
Yeah,
that case is. And what that looks like, and I think was really good for myself, and just like a kind of pulse check of like, okay, I'm not the only one that's in crazy season, and it's okay to ask for help, or whatever that looks like. And I really enjoyed that part of it. And just like you said, to be with everybody and kind of the quote unquote networking between all the ladies, and,
yes,
us getting to touch base on different things and different ideas, and kind of roundtable discussions at dinner. And that's always the stuff that kind of quote unquote fills my cup up when it's crazy season, and, you can talk through different things with different ladies.
it makes you feel less crazy, right? Because when you're
Yes.
in that group and you're hearing, okay, like things that are happening in Texas, I'm facing that in New York, and things that are happening in Florida, you might be facing in Nashville, and it's like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like this is a legit thing. Like it's valid. It's validating. So it was nice
Yes.
to be able to communicate and see what's working for people where and how to make things more smooth and better service our clients. Like it's just nice.
Yes, I
But
agree
yeah,
with that. And I think just like another like touch base too on, things to do that, kind of goes into what we're talking about here today, but also just like a touch base on things that we can do on wedding days, like our concierge package and things like that, that we can add on and talk through with our clients for, maybe not this fall, but into the spring, or someone that might be interested,
yeah,
that's working in other places that, might work in our cities too, or, like you said too, about things that might be happening in Florida that might be happening in other cities, and especially the different seasons of weddings, but everybody's fall is busy
Yes.
almost every, season. And, just kind of a quick touch base before we go into busy season and see everybody after that.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody's
Yeah,
season looks different. Like some locations have a lot of outdoor weddings, which mine's a lot of outdoor weddings because you've got fall
right.
foliage and all the things, the lakes and all the scenery is outside. But in Florida, and I know some places in Chicago, like the inside venues are just jaw dropping, like they're gorgeous. And where I'm at, we don't have that kind of. I'm not going to say we don't have it, but we don't have it like close by. A lot of those bigger indoor venues that are jaw dropping, like the one I did this last Saturday, like those are few and far between because it's so nature driven and just outdoor. We do a lot of tents, we
Yes.
do a lot of barns and that type of thing where you've got like, these really high end hotels and stuff in Chicago and Palm Beach. Like it's just a different aesthetic as far as what's busy when, because obviously we get
Right.
snow, so the winter's kind of like a pause for us on outdoor venues.
Right. Right. And I kind of agree with you too. Like this past fall, or like these past few months, we've had a lot of outdoor weddings, and they have been so hot, like the wedding we had a couple weekends ago in the middle of September was literally 96 degrees at ceremony time, and it's outdoor, and they're like, what? Like, it's September, it's supposed to be cool, it's supposed to be leaves falling. And I'm like, not yet here in Tennessee. Whereas you might already have the fall foliage and,
Yep.
already have those cooler temp days. And I wish we did here.
Oh yeah, they're definitely settling in and I'm loving it. This past weekend was magic.
Yay! I'm so excited for you, and wish you a good fall season.
You too, girl, you too. Hopefully it cools down over
Yeah.
there for you.
Right, right. Maybe by October, end of October. You just never know.
Fingers crossed. I mean, this past weekend, like I said, we had one indoor and then the other one was call time was a bit early. We were out there at 4:45 in the morning chasing waterfalls, no pun intended. But it was just magic, like to see the sunrise and it was a very intimate ceremony and it was beautiful. And then
Oh
the
my
pictures,
gosh.
it just if you saw my stories, then you got kind of like a little glimpse into it. But I
Yes.
cannot wait to see the photographer's pictures.
Yes, I can't either. I can't wait to
Yeah,
see those. Those are going to be really good. I can
makes it all
already
worth
tell.
it. Yeah, I love
Yay.
it.
Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about our packages here at Stunning and Brain Event. So we're excited to jump in with that today and talk through some different things that each package includes and all the fun things. So let's jump right into full planning. So Bianca, do you want to talk through that, and then I'll jump in?
Yeah, sure. We actually this has been on the rise as of the last couple of weeks for our team. Um, Full planning is exactly what it sounds like. You can be as involved or uninvolved as you want. 120 hours up to 120 hours. It comes with insurance. Like it's just all the things, the vendor meetings, the meetings with the client. Like there's multiple ways to break it down, but it literally is I always explain it to people. We're going to hold your hand every step of the way.
Yes.
Like that's just, it's what it is. But a lot of the clients, and I love this and I always encourage it. I always tell them, if you guys want to we can sit down and on your first planning call, we're going to design out where you want the most support. Like if I have a bride that, they want to be involved, they want to make decisions and all the stuff. I love that. I'm going to bring to you everything and then we're going to work together through it. But if
Right.
there's like cake tasting or, something like that where it's a little bit more intimate, I always encourage them. I'm like, this is the perfect date afternoon. Like if you
Right.
want to go and taste cake and have that moment without a third wheel, I'm all about it. We can support in other areas where you can have that. But I
Right.
just want them to make sure that they're comfortable and, we're working through the design process and everything together so that it's their day. Because a lot of people think that whenever they're booking full planning, it's like they don't get a say. And I've had that question and I'm like, no, 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 no. No matter how it's, framed verbally, you're still going to make all the decisions. It's still going to be your day and it's going to reflect you.
Right. I
So,
had a recent client that asked me that same specific question. Like, I want to be really involved. But also on the flip side, I have a different client that was interested that, trying to decide between the packages. And she was like, I'm really busy throughout my school year, but, in the summers, like I want to be involved. I want to be in
Yeah.
on any email, and so I think that's a good kind of hybrid too, that it's completely up to you and however you see fit. If you
Yeah.
want to be, like you said, us involved in, or them involved in every single step of the way, absolutely, but if also they're like, this is kind of what I want, like get me some quotes and we'll kind of go from there type situation, that's great too. It really
Right.
just depends on the client and, like you said, how involved they want to be.
Yeah. And I'm actually like, I work that way with all the tiers of packages, if you will. I just want to make sure that whatever, whatever's their vision, I want whatever the process is to reflect them at the end of the day. Like I don't want, like if someone says rustic to me, I'm going to ask them 50 more questions about what does rustic mean to them. I want to
Right,
know the
right.
level of rustic. Are we talking like no shoes in the middle of the woods with a barn you can see through the walls, or are we talking about like rustic elevated chic? So we need details, and I ask a lot of questions, and that's what helps me because I'm a visual person. It helps me bring
Yes,
what they're seeing. Like they
right.
can
And
give
I
me
think
info
that,
boards all day long, but I need to
yes.
know what about this picture do you like? Is it the florals? Is it the linens? Like, tell me more.
Right. And I think too that kind of goes back into kind of what we were saying. Your rustic is probably different than our rustic, and we kind of do, when we do a quote unquote rustic, we do more of like a modern rustic that's
Right.
still, it's not the mason jars, but it's still kind of got that spin on
Girl.
things that, it
No more mason jars.
mason jar out.
Please. Please. No more. Please
So,
no.
but yeah, I think that kind of like goes into say like what we were just saying about the different cities, and and I like what you said too about nailing down actually on the picture that they send you. Let's say it is a picture of a wedding aisle. Like, what do you like about that? Do you like that the chairs are curved, or do you like that, it's a wide aisle? Do you like that, there's florals on the arbor? Do you like that the bridesmaids are, way over to the side or standing close? Really diving into those details of every
Yeah.
individual picture that they send you, and, knowing what that looks like, and, how they see it versus how we see it. We might see it as, oh Lord, another floral arrangement on an arbor, where they see it as beautiful, and you want to make
Yeah.
sure it's their day. You want to make sure that it's exactly what they want. So,
Right. And I think one of the key questions that I ask in every single consult that I do is I always ask them, what do you want people to say about your wedding after it's over?
yes.
That's going to tell me how involved they need me to be, what help, like what areas of help they want to focus on, and what's most important. Because if they say, I want to make sure that everybody has a great time, then I know that entertainment's got to be at the forefront.
Right.
Like it's just, that's a key clue as to what the focus needs to be. And I'm not picking on the guys, but a lot of times the guys are the food and the music. It's just usually how it
Yes.
goes.
Right.
But if those two things are super important, then we need to make sure to get that end result, how we're going to get there. We need to match them up with the best vendors for their style. Obviously, if
I
it's,
agree. Yeah.
a folk band that these people like, but they want a club vibe, that's not going to work. So it takes a lot of work on our part to do that investigating, to create these, the packages that we're
Yes.
sharing with these couples that is going to best serve their day.
Right. I agree with that. And I think too, another thing along the lines of that too is just something like, is like catering meetings. I think catering sometimes can be one of the things that couples can either argue on, because like a bride
Yeah.
wants a pasta bar and the groom's like, no, I want, a buffet or a taco truck. I've seen it so many different ways. And I think that's one thing too that kind of we can jump into as well, is, kind of being the bridge between them. Like, look, you can do both, have a buffet for dinner and have that taco truck for, late at
Late
night,
night.
for
Yeah.
your late night snacks, providing different ideas throughout the whole process, no matter which package they plan, and what that, or which package they pick, I'm sorry. And, knowing what that looks like, and also being kind of the, referee in a way between the
Mediator.
couple when they, yes, yeah, but when they're kind of like faced with a decision they have to make, and like, well, this is my recommendation, go with what you want. If you really want the buffet, but he's really leaning towards having a taco truck, let's do this. And so just little things like that that we can provide throughout the whole wedding planning process, and different ideas and different alternatives and things like that as well.
Yeah. And being able to present them with their options within their hour range is a huge thing, because
Yes.
there's a difference between, the full planning, you're getting the 100 up to 120, and then you're going, partial with the 80, and then month of with the 30. And it's so hard. Sometimes we have people that, whether it's budgetary restrictions or whatever that looks like, that want to start somewhere, but they don't really know if they need partial or if they want month of. And I get
Right.
so many inquiries, and I'm sure you do too, for just day of.
Yes.
We
Yes.
don't do just day of. There is no such thing as a successful, productive day of planner or coordinator. It's just
Yes.
not possible, because you're going to get on site and you're going to have to ask a million questions, because you don't know anybody. You don't know
Right.
what their vision is. You don't know how many vendors they're working with. Like, it's
You don't
just
know how many linens they ordered for
right.
X amount of people. You
And
don't know
you've
if they
never,
want 6 people per table or 10
right.
people. It's all those little like details that we take such pride and joy in planning the whole process, or even
Yeah.
just at that month of when they come on, you figure
It's
out
still a
all those
struggle sometimes.
details, and you're yeah, you don't just show up and going, "Oh my Lord."
And if you've never been to that venue and you're showing up as a day of coordinator, like, then you got to take the time to get your bearings, find whoever's
Yep.
in charge on site. Like, it's just a mess. So
Yes.
brides, couples, don't do just day of coordination. It's just not, it's going to be way more stress than it's worth. And it's just not productive, in my opinion.
I agree with you 1,000%.
Even our
Another
month of
thing
sometimes
too,
stressful.
yeah, I was gonna say, and another thing that I've ran into here in Nashville, maybe you have as well. We've had clients that will reach out wanting a day of package, and come to find out it's not actually a day of package. That's just what they're calling it. They're like, oh, we
Mhm.
want you to come on, a month in advance. Oh, great, that's our month of package, and not, but they see it as a day of, like, you're there on the wedding day, and I'm like,
Right.
it's kind of the same, but that's why, that differentiation, because at a day of coordinator is literally showing up the morning with something somebody's probably wrote on a piece of paper with circles, like, here's your tables, type thing, here you go. And we
Yeah.
put a lot of detail into our timelines and layouts, and we talked about this before, just so if we need to pass that on to an assistant, like, hey, go ahead and start setting up those tables while I check in with the couple, we're able to do so. What would you do if you got there on a day of, you're just like, oh, hey, I'm the wedding day coordinator, like,
Yeah.
sign me up to do what you need, like.
Right. And that's the struggle. I feel like, and another thing that I get, and I know like everybody else does too, it's just a given, but they'll
Hmm.
say, well, why are day of coordinators so much less expensive?
Right.
Well, because they are less expensive, because they're not doing all of the groundwork that we're doing for even month of, let alone partial or full. Like, it's just, it
Yes.
takes a lot of time. There's a lot of, all right, take any wedding planner. They've got at least a couple of weddings that they're doing at the same time. Not maybe
Right.
the same day or same weekend, but just planning process wise. It takes time. Each of those weddings has their own cluster of vendors. So you've
Right.
got to dig through, do the work, read the contracts, and go through and just make sure that each scenario matches up to what, the venue allows. Like, if they don't allow an open flame, you need to read the contract to read and know that they're not going to
Right.
allow the bride to bring in an open flame on the day of. If you're an on-site coordinator for the day of, you're going to find that day of coordinator and be like, well, what are these open flames? It was in the contract.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you've got to make sure that you're doing the groundwork, and that's a struggle.
Yes. Yes, I agree with you, and I think that can kind of lead us into, how we calculate hours as well. Just
Yeah.
because when you do have those certain level packages, it does play a role in that. Whether you want us to go to those cake tasting,
Yeah.
instead of the date nights, or being on, your 4 floral calls that, because you can't decide what exactly you want, whatever that looks like. So let's bridge into that and talk a little bit about how we calculate those.
Yeah. So each hour, each package is given like a specific block of hours. And what
Hmm.
a lot of couples don't realize is those hours also include wedding day. And wedding day is the biggest chunk, because you're
Yes.
there. Most times it's 11 o'clock arrival time, and you're there for 10, 11, 12 hours.
Hmm.
That comes out of that bulk chunk of hours.
Right.
Like, so if you get month of and you've got 30 hours, but you have, 150 people, I always try to assign my team one S&B person for every 50 people, just because that's what works
Yes.
best for me with control and with making sure that everything's covered.
Right.
But right there, that's 30 hours if you've got each person there for 10 hours. So you've got to be mindful. All these emails, all these communications, it all comes out of that block of hours. So
Right.
if you don't want overage charges or anything like that, you've got to be mindful and just try to bulk as much as you can into an email. Like it doesn't have to be
Yes.
like a text message thread with emails. And sometimes it
Yes.
is, and that's super stressful because things can get lost. And then you've got, you know, things that are planned and everything set in stone, and the final, wedding week email goes out and everything's set, but then changes start rolling in on Wednesday, and it's like, okay, this is how things get lost. We need to know
Right.
what's going where. But again, those things also come out of the hours.
Yes.
So it's a very delicate balance. So that's
And
why I
I
always try
agree with you.
to do partial at minimum.
Right. I was going to
At
say,
minimum.
because in here in Nashville, and I don't know about you, we've had a couple clients that start out as month of, and throughout the process, because they book us in advance, they're so
Yeah.
excited to work with us. But like, look, I can do the planning part. I'm an assistant of whatever office or whatever it looks like,
Yeah.
and like I can do the planning process. And I've had clients reach out and they're like, hey, we need to upgrade our package. Hey, we need to add on some additional hours. Can you help us with our transportation? Like, we just can't seem to wrap our head around it, and we're happy to do that, but also, like, if you were a partial planning pack or partial planning client, those hours would have came out of there, however you wanted us to use. If you're like, hey, I really need help with my transportation schedule, if you can, help me figure that out, we'll just take it out of those hours.
Right. Or if they forego and they don't have, 4 vendor meetings that they have to set up, they want
Right.
to do that part on their own, that's completely fine. We can allocate those for something else, which is great.
Yes.
But it's a matter of just understanding how many you have and how they're charged. And as anybody, all of our clients know, it's charged by email. It's charged by, if you're contacting after 6 p.m., if it's on a weekend, and I don't think people really pay attention to the hours that were available.
Right.
Like, I think a lot of times it's forgotten that yes, we are wedding planners. Yes, we cherish each and every couple that we help. But at the same time, you have your package in life and we have ours too. So we
Yes.
want to make sure that we're being respectful on both sides of that. So
Yes.
is changing, a linen count 18 months out really that pressing at, today's
Right.
date versus just kind of maybe getting it, I guess, at a better time. Put it in better
Right.
timing. Put it with
Yeah.
something else that we're going to discuss. Or if you have a call coming up, save it. Like, don't email
Yes.
15 times. Just save it. Write it down. Make a list, and then we'll knock it out on a call. It saves you hours and it
Yes.
saves you time. Like, it's just, you got to
And I
budget your
like that
hours.
as well, just because, yeah, but just because it helps to, like, in your regroup email, like from a call, like, these are the points that you had questions on, and this is what
Right.
we're going to, we answered and what that looks like. Because I've had experiences too where, like, whether it's me asking the client or the client asking me, they've asked me so early that, it's, for instance, 10 people at a table, but they've switched from a 72-inch round to a 60-inch round, like, and what that looks like. And that, but they asked me so far in advance, but they didn't include me in the process of changing those tables. And now we're right there closer to the wedding, and it's like, no, that's a table difference, that matters at how many people will fit there. And
Yeah.
just little details like that. But if you put it in kind of a regroup email, you can go back and look and say, oh, this is why we did this. We needed more space or whatever that looks like. Or we had more families that it just seemed to work for us better that we had 6 to 8 to a table instead of 10, because it worked better for us. And those little
Yeah.
details, and putting that into an email and sending that to us, or after a call that we have with the client and sending that back to them, we're able to go back and say, oh, that's what that was, and just kind of that cookie trail of where that conversation came from and
Yeah.
what changed and all those little looks too. And like you said too about putting it all in an email, I can't recommend that enough, for different
Yes.
things, but I am also the type person that if something comes to mind, I jot it in an email and email it to myself with the subject line of, whoever's client it is, just so I know when that time comes when I talk to them again to add it on there too and be respectful of their time just as well.
Right.
Like, for instance, did you decide to go with the poly linens or do you want to upgrade to a majestic linen? That's not super important throughout the entire
Right.
process, but we need to know. So I'll add it onto their meeting notes for the next call that I have with them, or when I email them about something else. Hey, just another quick question. Did you decide to upgrade those linens? Whatever that looks like throughout their
Right.
process, just being respectful of their time as well, just as we hope they are with ours.
Yeah, and like you mentioned with the tables changing, of course, whenever we do inquiries and consult calls, you may be inviting 250 people. Well,
Yes.
maybe when everything shakes out, especially according to the 80/20 rule, like maybe those people aren't all going to come. Maybe your guest
Right.
count's going to drop below where you booked your package. And that's
Yes.
okay. So I've had this question a couple of times recently, and it's worked out. Like you can never downgrade your package. You can always upgrade, add on, just because 9 times out of 10, you're going to need more hours than you think you are.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a
Always.
communicator or an over communicator, you want to make sure that things are nailed down. Like you want that reassurance, whether it be, you know, month of, day of, 2 years out. Like it's crazy, but we've had them. But you've got to
Yes.
make sure that, like, I always tell the girl that I was just chatting with day before yesterday, like we had this conversation. Her guest count dropped, I think, by like maybe 40-ish people, but she's going to use those hours. She's going
Right.
to use that money, those funds in hours for day of,
Yes.
because we still want to make sure that she's having the best day possible. We still want to make sure that all the coverage is there. And then she's got kind of like a savings account versus a bill afterward. So I'm like, don't
Yes.
do anything. Like, just keep it as it is, and you'll see how it shakes out. And it always
Right.
does, because we're going to make sure that you're covered one way or another.
Exactly.
It has to be that way.
And I think just to touch on one thing you said too about like your initial call, whether you're a full or partial plating client, or even sometimes with our month of clients, they tell us, oh, we're inviting 250 people, and I specifically have a past client that they invited 200, and, we're at like 6 weeks before their wedding, and I do a touch base with them like, hey, just checking in, how's your RSVPs going? Oh, we're at 80 people. That's a huge difference as far as
Yes.
like tent size and all those things. Will come to find out some of their invitations were lost in the mail
Yep.
and these people didn't get invites. So, they picked up the phone and started calling everybody, and their RSVP shot right back up. It was
Right.
like, oh, we got your save the date. We just hadn't received your invitation.
Yep.
And it kind of goes into say like, just check in with them throughout the process, because just because they told you at the very beginning it was going to be 250, once they start looking at math and how much things cost, and that
Yes.
meals are X amount of dollars per person, most of the time, I don't want to say all the time, their guest count tends to dwindle down.
I always ask them, I'm like, let me just put this out there. Are these obligatory invites or are they real? I want you there
Right.
invites. And a
Right.
lot of times it's the parents that want their friends and people there.
Yep.
And the bride and groom are just like, I don't even know half of these people.
Yep.
Like, that's why I stress to them constantly. I'm like, it's your day. Like, don't let
Yes.
anyone influence your day, especially when they're paying for it themselves and parents don't play a role. That's a huge thing. Like, why are you going to give someone your power? No,
Right.
make
And
it
and I
about
think that
you.
goes into say too, like throughout the process, like hours, like we want the bride reaching out to us, and not mom of the groom and mom of the bride, and groom about like, I've had a couple groomzillas the past couple years, and I'm just like, dude, chill out, like, you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
but it's over little silly stuff that I've already communicated with the bride, but she doesn't feel as necessary to communicate with the groom. So it puts me in a position like, hey, we really wanted to do ivory linens instead of white, but we've already got that changed on the, eventworks quote, and has been resent back, and changes have been made, like,
Yeah.
but it's those little emails that come in, and those are ours as well, because it takes us time to read them and respond to them, and also kind of like, pull your hair out, because like you've already answered those questions, you know throughout the process with the bride, but the groom tends to want to ask as well.
I got an email for a wedding, a recent wedding, and it was asking me my role. I just
Oh
wanted to
my
clarify, what is
gosh.
your role? And it wasn't from the bride or the groom. And I'm just like, there are so
Wow.
many things I could say right now, but I
Right.
won't. But, very nicely explained what my role was and who hired me. and what the day was going to look like, and it was going to be beautiful. And it was. Not to
Oh
say
my
that there
gosh.
wasn't some trying, like, I think my biggest thing is I don't like to be micromanaged. Like, if you hire me for
Yes.
something, you're hiring me for a reason. Like,
Yes.
we're interviewing each other on that consult call. And if it's a fit, great. If it's not, that's great too. Maybe someone else is a better fit.
Right.
But to receive an email to ask what your role is, I was just like taken aback, and I'm like, what? What?
Right. Oh my gosh.
Talk to your
That's
son or
crazy.
daughter, and they'll let you know what my role is.
Right. Yes. And I've had a couple moms throughout the process that want to be just as involved, but
Yeah.
also respect the same concept. Like, they will put all their questions in an email to the bride, and the bride will send it to me. Hey, mom had a couple of
Yes.
these questions. Can you help us answer them? Which is
Yeah.
great. We love that. We're happy to help, but it streamlines the process in all the questions that we get from so many different angles of just getting them from one question. So we don't have to go back and say, hey, your mom reached out to us about this. I just want to make sure you're aware, that she's wanting to change the linen colors from purple to blue, or whatever
Yeah.
that looks like. And I don't know about you, I've had the case where mom is trying to slither her way in and provide, what would you like to say? Comments that she's not paying for that, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. I don't like that. And we have to remind them, like, hey, the bride is our client, and this is their hours. We're working directly with them, and this is their wedding. This is what they want. It's
Yeah.
not yours. I don't care that you want blue linens. Blue linens do not match their aesthetic. Or whatever the case is. And I've had that happen before. But also, that's taking hours away from
Yeah.
each of these packages, because we still have to answer those emails, we still have to respond, or
Right.
turn around and email the bride and be like, hey, mom's reaching out about this, like, do you know what's going on, type thing.
Yes. And it's funny because I do have some brides that'll warn me, because we'll go over the package, we'll go over the hours, we'll go over all the
Uh-huh.
services, what to expect. Like, we do that right out of the gate. You know how the onboarding process is. It's just
Yep.
very informational, and we want to make sure that they have a clear understanding. And I've had brides tell me, give her a job, like, keep her busy, keep her away from me. And it's
Yep.
sad, especially because I have two daughters. Like, I know when it's their time, heaven forbid, I hope it's when they're like 65. But when it's their time, I want their day to be perfect too, but I want it to be their day. I will
Right.
fully support in whatever decisions they make, just, aesthetics, however they want it to look, that's fine. But I couldn't
Yes.
imagine like some of the stuff that we deal with even like month up. Like, we'll get the texts or the calls at like 9 o'clock at night from random numbers, and it's a mom of whomever after they've gotten the
Yep.
preliminary, and it's just like, no, this is not okay. Like, I don't respond. Like, take a screenshot and
Yes.
email. It's not, be respectful of the package.
Right. And I think too that goes into say, like, even after the wedding, like, if there's, questions of where's so and so or whatever, like, you know, even though their package is quote unquote done, you still have to answer those emails.
Right.
Like, I had a recent wedding that we specifically I told mom, I told dad, I told maid of honor, this is where this is. I don't even remember what the item was now. It was some special item. And I always like to put special items in their card box because it's just as valuable as those cards or whatever gifts might be in those cards.
So I would
And
send the
so
pictures to the bride. Like, the bride has
yes.
the pictures.
Yes, and specifically had told them, and anyway, we put it in there, and also, like you said, sent the pictures, and they're calling me like 2 days after their wedding. Where's this?
Yeah.
Well, I told you on the night of the wedding, it's in the card box. Well, obviously that card box is probably with bride and groom, not with mom. That's
Right.
in the car that's not been unpacked 3 days after the wedding.
Right. Rightfully so.
Yeah. So just those little communication things, I think we can't stress enough that, just to streamline the process and make sure nothing gets missed, and that's another reason why we do not do texting with our clients. We try to stress
Yeah.
that enough is because things can get missed. I know I specifically had a wedding where, bride was never answering my emails. So it became a part in her role with work. It became a part of texting. And there was multiple cases where, like, we've touched base on this, but I can't find where it was. It's not a quick, email search, like, oh,
Right.
linen color or whatever that is. And, but it's in my text. And so you have to go back and look through that and kind of find that. And we can't stress that enough because that is ours too, even though it's a quick text that takes, 2 seconds. Like, Had a recent client reach out, sending me the linen swatch. What color should I pick? Well, let's dive into that, of what florals you're going to, all those little things. And once you respond, it leads to a full on
Yes.
conversation of, oh, while I've got you, or just another quick question, while I'm talking to you, can you help me answer this? Or, what would you
Yep.
do in this situation? And, it's just to best serve the client and, all of the vendors that we work with, just to make sure everything is streamlined and
Yeah.
everything is in writing. And, if there's a question, instead of us taking those hours and emailing the client and saying, hey, what color linen did we decide? Did we decide to go with that purple or blue? We can go back and look and see, oh, it's right there, like in our meeting notes, and not take the hours
Yeah.
away from, the client.
And that's a huge thing why we want to always suggest, instead of just doing the month of, do the partial.
Yes.
You've got wiggle
Yes.
room for those questions and those random thoughts and those changes. Whereas month of it's predominantly labor. Those hours are
Yes.
labor. It's not, it
Yep.
doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room for timeline layout, which are also part of it, on top of all the emails.
And I think just
So,
something to say along that line is, even if you book us for a month of package, don't expect us to, and we will make it happen and we can bill you for it. But don't expect us to, oh, we're a month out from the wedding. I still don't have my rental quote, or I still don't have linens. Can you help me with that? Absolutely. But that's not what those hours are necessarily designated for.
right.
Those are for reaching out to those vendors you've already booked, confirming that you have cake forks, confirming all those things, looking over contracts, and, sending your timeline and layout to your vendors that you've booked, and, making changes and scheduling calls. And like, that's what
Yeah.
those hours are designated for. Don't wait until the last minute just because you have a month of package to get some of those things done. It's not
Yes.
the same amount of hours. That's a quick way to go over those month of hours.
Yeah. That last window, that last 6 to 8 weeks is definitely vital, especially, and this goes
Yes.
out to vendors. Be responsive. It's busy season for all of us.
Please.
These month ofs, we're in a critical time crunch as it is, and like, we need the details. I have weddings this
Yes.
weekend. Some vendors I'm still tracking down. They've got the preliminary a
Yes.
month ago. And
Yeah.
then I received word on last weekend from a vendor that they didn't do email. I called, left messages, hit their Instagram, emailed them. I took the bride's phone and was messaging them. No response. If somebody gives you money, do your job. Like,
Yes. Yes.
just be
Can't stress that
respectful of
enough.
everyone involved. It's bigger than you. Trust me, it's bigger than you.
And especially during busy season, like, don't get me wrong, there's some days where I'm like, I don't even want to open that email. I don't even want to, I don't even want to open my inbox and see
So
what could be
dumpster
waiting on
fire,
me,
girl.
especially after, a 12-hour wedding day and it's 1
Mhm.
a.m. But I am guilty. If I see something come in that's like a quick answer, especially arrival times, I think that's something that
Yes.
we've had a couple adjustments here in Nashville, especially with weather. And, if it's an outdoor wedding and it's going to rain all morning, like, there's no reason for, whatever to arrive that early, DJ or whatever the case may be. And,
Dietary
they'll
restrictions.
email me.
We don't want to kill
Yes.
you. Like, do you have a nut
Right.
allergy? Share this with
Right.
me. You're gonna
Yes.
die.
Exactly. And, just that kind of transparency, those changes that we're able to still adjust, but it just takes a quick second to look at your email and say, oh my God, I finally got that response. And you can email the bride and say, I finally heard from so-and-so, and it's off your plate. You know what I
It
mean?
holds
And
up
even
so
if it
many
is 1
people.
a.m.
Yes, it holds
Yes.
up so many people. Final
Yes.
counts is a big thing for, catering, and especially some of them are requesting it a month out now because of this.
Yes.
So
Right.
it's huge. Like, just take the time. Like, even if you see it come through on your phone, just message back. Not
Yep.
allergy. I'll take the ravioli. Just, it's that
Right.
simple. Like, come on. Let me
Yes.
help you. Like,
Yes. And that's kind of so to say too with us, in especially when we're trying to get those answers, it's not that necessarily we specifically need all those answers. It's the other vendors that need all those
right.
answers. Your final guest count, like, we have to know that, yes, to make sure things work and table arrangements and all those things, but catering needs it far more more than us. They need to
Yeah,
send that final invoice and get that paid, because it's a domino effect.
it
If you don't
is.
have the first thing first, it just falls from there. And, we can't stress enough, like Bianca said, answer us, even if it's a quick response, or, I've even had vendors that, I'll pass them, whether I'm at a networking event or whatever. And she's like, oh my God, I got to email you. Like, just do it now.
Right.
Like, just do
Hi,
it now.
I'm right
Yeah,
here.
I'm right here. Or tell me and I will email it to myself and copy you on it. Like, just,
Yeah.
I need them responses back. And I hate getting the emails of, hey, I'm just following up with you, or sending those too. Like, hey, I really need this by, end of day. And I've started to, and this might be something you do as well, is putting a timestamp on it. Like, hey, I need this by tomorrow, end of day. And
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but most of the time I get it back and by then. And if not, like, hey, I need this by end of day. If not, I'm going to give you a call on Wednesday so we can touch base and kind of talk through this because they need it by Friday, and it just leaves it. And
Creates
that's another thing,
urgency.
a month of, like, even though there's a cake fork on the rental quote, is that a cake fork or a salad fork? And do you want it on your place setting, or are those specifically for cake?
Yeah.
Or did we forget cake forks? And, and there's just those little details that we need to make sure, and takes a lot of time. And, if you can't get a response back from the bride to let the rental quote know, hey, we need to add on 200 extra forks, and then they can send the invoice. I mean, it's just a constant circle, and
Right.
we can't stress that enough, especially with, our partial and full clients. We can line some of that stuff out throughout the process. Like, hey, you want a full place setting? Perfect. But we need to make sure we have cake plates and cake forks added on to the quote. Oh, why do we need that? Well, those are going to be at the end of the night. They're not going to be on the place setting. By then, plates have already been cleared, forks have been cleared, and you
Yeah.
cannot guarantee that those forks are going to be there. Oh, great. Perfect. And so it's just those little details that come into play throughout the full and partial that you're sometimes figuring out with a month of.
Right. And it's definitely not going to be a focus of a day of coordinator. It's just not.
Yes.
So that's
Because
why you
if
take
it
the
was a
hard.
day of coordinator, be like, oh, do we have cake forks or no?
They'll be headed to the dollar store to
Yeah,
get some
that's right.
disposables.
And I have had a wedding where they ordered cake forks. Ordered cake forks, but never got the rental quote. They did not order cake forks. And here I am calling an assistant. Hey, can you stop on your way in and bring
Yeah.
us some silver forks from Walmart? We'll make it work. And, and no one even knew. Like, later
Yeah.
down the road, and I even had, like, the client reach out after. She was like, I don't know where these forks came from, but, like, they were perfect. Don't worry about it. We got it.
Right. That's the whole purpose.
Yes,
But
yes,
it's
exactly.
it's definitely a blur for sure of all the things.
Yes, yes. I think some other things that we can go into too, is how we base pricing with our guest count. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that's always, especially here in Nashville, I don't know about with you or the other offices, that's always like, well, why is a wedding of 75 people this price, but a wedding for 400 people this price? And that's kind of my biggest, like, well, this is why, so I'm curious to hear how you phrase that to your clients.
I'm very upfront with everybody. Like I have,
Yes.
I just want full transparency. I try to make sure that we've got someone checking in with the guys, someone checking in with the girls, people at reception, making sure that all the parts are going up at the same time. That's a huge thing for me. Like I don't want to have to worry about, okay, I'm going to go deliver personals with the florist and make sure that, everybody's getting whatever they need.
Right.
I don't want to have to think about reception. Like, is that going up and is it going to be ready by 2? Or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I always put on there that I want ceremony site set up by this time, reception site set up by this time,
Yes.
like to give them a mark to hit. Otherwise, you know, it may not happen. Like, that's
Yeah.
an expectation that you set.
Right.
But I always try to tell the people whenever I'm consulting, I try to do 1 per every 50. I want to make
Yes.
sure that your day is fully supported in all parts of it, whether
And I
it's,
think it
start to
also
finish.
says too, like, this sounds like silly, but like it's common sense. Like a 50-person wedding
Less
is,
labor.
even though sometimes they are as involved, but isn't as involved as a 400-person. And,
Right.
You can't do it all. You and an assistant can't do it all for a 400-person wedding, but you
Right.
can for a 50-person wedding, and what that
Right.
looks like. And I tried to, just like you said, and I love the phrase of that, this is why, and, when we want to make sure you're taken care of as well as things are getting set up, we don't want to be at the tent setting everything up and can't sleek away for a second to go check in with the bride and groom. We want to
Yeah.
make sure everyone's taken care of.
Yeah, and we do take into consideration, like for example, this weekend we do have another one at a venue, and they have an on-site coordination team. Which, by the way,
Yes.
we're not your competition. We're your allies. We want to partner with you
Right.
and work with you and build relationships with you. We're not there to step on toes or get territorial. Like so many instances, like I've heard like feedback, and it's just like, what? But those types of situations, they're obviously in those roles for a reason. They're talented at what they do. They know the
Right.
venue inside and out. We know the couple. We know their
Right.
expectations. We know what their vision is, what they want it to look like. It's a perfect combination. It's a marriage between the planners. Like, I
Yes.
wish
Yes.
people could see it that way. But whenever we do have an on site coordination team of 2, 3, but they also have a banquet staff for the most part.
Yes.
I'm not going to need to bring in 15 people to
Right.
do the work that I'm going to share with another team. So you have to
Right.
communicate with the venue and say, okay, this is kind of like a partnership. What do you want to do? What do you want us to do? Because you want to work
Right.
with them, not against them. And
Yes.
this is a big struggle at some venues where people, I don't know if it's ego, I don't know where it comes from, but we're not there to take over. We want to
Yes.
see how we can complement each other.
And
Like
work
that's the
together
biggest
and,
thing.
at the
Yes.
end of the day, make sure it's a seamless and,
Yes.
perfect wedding day. It's not that, oh, you're going to set the table. Okay, fine. Like, we'll go do this. You know what I mean?
You
And
check me,
I
I'll
think,
check you. Like that's how it
yes,
should be.
right.
It's not
And,
about
and I
us, it's
think
about the
this,
couple.
yes. And I think too, something that we've talked about with the other cities, some cities, catering teams set the place setting in the
Yeah.
linens and everything. They drop everything. Where here in Nashville,
Not New
you'll
York.
be lucky to see the caterer until an hour before ceremony. That's just when they come. I mean, and you cannot wait on that.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, again, difference in our cities, whether that's Chicago, Atlanta, or whatever, here in Nashville, if I walked up to a catering team and said, "Hey, can you set the place setting? Here's all the things," they would look at me like I had two heads. Like that's just, we don't do that here. Now hotels
Yeah.
are different,
They
because
are.
they do have the banquet staff and, you could ask them, "Hey, these are the water goblets if you all want to put them out," or whatever that looks like. But,
Right.
we literally don't see catering until almost every wedding I've done here. We do not see catering until right before ceremony or, even during cocktail hour because they bring everything on site, and,
Yeah.
or they're busy. It's just a, duo or a chef and a captain or whatever. They don't have staff there until, reception. I can only imagine if we ask them. And I have had a similar situation too, where we asked them about doing plated and what that looks like, and they're like, "Oh, well, that's an extra charge." I'm like, "Okay, does that extra charge include you all setting everything up?" "Oh, no. No." Like, we'll drop their salads off. Okay, that's fine, but like, and that's one of those things that we need to, figure out throughout the process, so we make sure we have enough staffing for that.
Right.
And are able to set a 200 full place setting dinner of what that looks like and all the detail and making sure it's perfect, and you've got your
Yeah.
3 glasses and, everything, where, a buffet might not have as much involved as such as because the plates are on the buffet, but, making sure we have enough staff to cover all of those. And just even like with what you said with the venue is making sure that we're working together, that we're not, it's not a competition of who can knock it out first or who can do
Yeah.
this, and but also that goes into say sometimes a venue coordinator, it doesn't do the same things we do.
Right.
And so it's, they're worried about if there's toilet paper in the bathroom, not if there's enough plates at this table. And it's just working together to find that and make sure everyone's taken care of. And I think that goes into say, at some events and some places, specifically more events or weddings, but having that staff that can greet guests to come in, not just like, "Oh, that's going to be one of your girls." Great, that's
Right.
fine, but that's going to pull one of my people to do that, and therefore I
Yeah.
need an additional one to, even though like a parking attendant should technically be the venue, but we need the parking attendant because of the logistics of it, and
Right.
so just making sure you have enough people, and we can't stress that enough of what that looks like.
I actually look forward to partnering with venues that have coordinators
Yes.
and stuff because a lot of my stuff, it's full construction from the ground up. I'm talking
Yep.
tents. You bring every single piece in, forks, tables, you name it.
Yep.
And we're in charge of that. So that's labor intensive. And it's
Yes.
a lot. So
Yes.
I found it a treat to go to, resorts or hotels or whatever the case looks like, venues, to have that extra help. Like it just makes everyone's
I
job
agree.
easier and it comes
Yes.
together a lot faster.
Besser. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Yes. And
Yeah.
Something else that I wanted to touch on too is some of the other packages we offer and what that looks
Yeah.
like as far as, our design service, our rehearsal dinner, our concierge package that we touched a little bit on at the very beginning. Let's talk through some of that and what that looks like and why specifically a rehearsal dinner planning package is not the same as your wedding day package.
Some rehearsal dinners are more elaborate than like receptions themselves. And that's
Yes.
okay. But it's a lot of work. Like if they
Yes.
have their own separate, stationary suite, like if that looks completely different than what you want for reception, and like it's just a lot of moving parts. So you have to, I
Mhm.
would actually just had this conversation on a consult a couple of days ago. What was the difference? Do we just add on hours to our package for the
Right.
rehearsal? And I'm like, we can do that. But when you have a venue that includes an extra space for it, you don't have to go into that depth that you would as scouting
Right.
another site, doing an
Yes.
invitation, picking out linens for that specific site. Like how elaborate it is up to you. So
Yes.
it's how much do you want to spend? That's the
Right.
question.
And I think too that also goes in to touching on like our design service. Like even if you book our month of package and you need extra help with like trying to decide what route you want to go, we did this with a client and it was perfect. We she had no clue what she wanted it to look like, and it was really fun to do because it was like you got to be flexible, like, oh, do you like this color, do you like, and it goes into our design package and what that
Yeah,
looks like in our design service, because that's completely different than planning,
right.
whether, and especially with a month of client, like most of the time they either know exactly what they want or they have no clue, or like they know they want the blues, or they know they want fall colors, or they're like, I have no clue, I want something different. And you're able to
Yeah.
work with them and kind of create that color scheme and, inspo pictures and find. And most of the time, and it's so much fun for us because a lot of the times the clients come to us and it's, oh, we want, a blue wedding. And I don't know about you, Bianca, blue weddings are beautiful, but I feel like it's all running together.
Yes, I feel like that, like the blue hues, and I love the coastal vibe, but I definitely feel
Yes.
like, oh my goodness, let's change her up a little bit. Let's get a little
Right.
crazy.
Yes. Yes. Let's go a little
I don't know,
crazy.
like
That's right.
I think I've said this before, but I like the moodier stuff. I'm not like
Yeah.
I respect the light and airy, and I love that because obviously it's a vibe, but it's just not specifically my vibe. Like I don't know. I don't know if
Yes.
that's like the New York girl in me or what, but I just like the moodier, like darker tones, but still the emotion.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yes.
a highly emotional person, and it's got to have that as a base for
Yeah.
me. But yes, I
Right.
want the dreamy and I want the moody.
Yes.
Got to have it.
I think real quick before we finish up today, let's talk a little bit about what happens if a bride goes over hours. I think this is
Yeah.
like the pink elephant in the room. Like, we love to do what we do, but if you're emailing 20 times a day, every single day, you're going to go over hours. We can't stress
Yeah.
that enough. Like, and how we track that and what that looks like when they do go over hours.
Yeah. Well, toggle I think is a big thing, like to help
Mhm.
track. I mean, the emails that come in, some of them, like you said, 20 a day, in
Yes.
conjunction with after six calls,
Hmm.
in conjunction with, adding to the guest count after you book package.
Yep.
Um, oh, extending. This was a big one that I've had happen a couple of times.
Hmm.
Time comes, it's 11 o'clock, but you want to pay the band to stay an extra hour. That extra
Yep.
hour turns into extra 2 hours.
Yep.
That's overage hours at
Yes.
75 an hour. So
Right.
it adds up quick. So just be mindful. Like if you have a specific budget in mind, you have to be aware of, how your communication structured, how frequently. Make sure that if end time is 11, it's 11. Like I know once you
Yep.
get in that vibe and you're done with all of your logistical stuff, you're done with all your obligatory pictures and your cake cutting and all that stuff, you just want to have fun, let your hair down and party. I get it. But you have to be mindful. Do I have enough time and what is it worth to me to keep it going? Because if not, you're going to get that bill
Right.
afterward. And we want to be there to completely support you in every way possible to make sure your day is the dream that you imagined. but everything comes at a cost. Excuse me, like it has to
Right.
be charged. And we talked about this a
Yes.
little bit on our owners
And
meeting.
I
Like I
think,
struggle internally with that.
yes. And I think it
Yeah.
also goes into say, and this is kind of another package that we have, like we cannot be there at 7 a.m. to make sure
Mhm.
your hair and makeup schedule is going well
Right.
and also be at the very end. Like we can do a concierge package that's specifically what that person does
Yes.
and, is running to get you coffee or whatever. But, we are designated to making sure everything is going fluently with the wedding itself, setting up and, all the things. That's not to say we won't check in on you, but,
Right.
you can't expect us to be there at 7 a.m. and over at midnight and not get extra hours. Like we're happy to do so, but like it takes time out of our day, to be there. And
Right.
again, we're happy to do it and that's fine. By all means, we'll be there if that's what you want us to do, but we'll obviously, be sending you a bill for those extra hours and that adds up really quickly. And I think, as well as, the planning hours, but also on the day of, like Bianca touched on, if you want us to be there, whatever time that is, and it's not 10 hours in the wedding day and you don't have those extra hours kind of floating around in a package, that's going to be billed for, and
Yeah.
like Bianca said, I struggle with that internally because, but also if you were at your, a doctor's appointment or your hair salon and those staff had to stay late, to make sure your hair was done or whatever, they're going to charge you for it. You know what I mean? Like their staff has to be paid, and it's not coming out of your deductible or your,
Right.
$50 that you paid at the doctor, when you're still there at 6 o'clock or whatever that looks like. So
You got to weigh the importance. The Louis
yes.
bag
Yeah.
that you're carrying, your wedding day.
Yes.
Memories 50 years down the road, you want to look and say, you know what, I really should have invested in more hours so that
Yep.
this was like this instead of buying that bag. Like
Yep.
just find your nuggets and invest in those nuggets. That's the biggest piece of advice that I can give you because you know what's important to you.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing.
Yep. That's exactly right. And I think that kind of sums up our packages and what that looks like. And, that they are being tracked. They're not just out floating in the abyss that, oh, I've got, 120 hours. I'll never reach that. Even though I email her 5 times a week about the silliest stuff, you can reach that and you might reach that, but that's also perks of going with our partial versus full instead of our month of, you can't email us for a month of that's, a year away wanting help with something and not expect to be billed. So,
Right.
and we're happy to help that or upgrade your package. By all means, we are happy to upgrade your package and we'll be full
Yeah.
on board, whatever you may need.
Yeah. We want to support you the best way possible. But again, it comes at a cost.
Yes. Yes.
Like everything in life.
Right. That's right. That's right.
No
Well,
surprises.
I think that's everything I have. If you have anything you want to add,
No, I mean, I'm just looking forward to a smooth rest of the season. We're coming up on holiday season, which is my favorite. So
Yay!
book your holiday parties.
Yes, book your holiday parties today. Reach out to
Yeah.
us.
Those are the fun, less pressure ones.
Yes. Yes. And
Yeah.
and everybody's in like a great mood. Like not that wedding
Yeah.
days aren't, but it's not
Less
as
stressful.
stressful. It's, and it really it's such a beautiful time of the year and, everybody is fully aware of what's going on and, everybody's respectful. Everybody's had a crazy year and it's just time for everybody to get together. So like Bianca said, book your holiday parties.
And come see me at Crystal. The Finger Lakes S&B team's going to be
Oh,
there
yes.
for the
Yes.
50th anniversary. So we're going to be
Yay!
celebrating for the Parade of Lights, and we'll be at Santa's Village, and then S&B. We're sponsoring the sleigh this year, so it's a photo opportunity that'll be there from November through January. So
Yay!
we're excited.
Oh my gosh. That's so
Yeah.
exciting. We'll go see Bianca. I love
Yeah.
that.
And I hope it snows like a fresh, pretty small coat to where I can still get out of there, but just a little bit, just a little glimmer would be great.
Yes, that'll be so pretty. I'm so excited
Yeah.
for you. Well,
Yeah.
as we'll gather up today, my name is Ashley. I'm the S&B Nashville owner, and we have Bianca, the S&B Finger Lakes, the owner. You can find us on social media, whatever you see fit, or you can reach out directly to my email at ashley.huff@Stunning and Brilliant Events. And
And
Bianca's
I'm
email
at
is
Bianca at Stunning and Brilliant Events.
yay. Well, let us. Yes. Well, we are so excited to work with you guys and talk through all the different levels of packages when the time comes. And I think that's all we have for today.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time.